5 minutes and a can of something. That is all a mother needed in 1963 to get a hot plate on the table when the grocery money ran out 3 days before payday. She did not look up a recipe. She opened a cabinet, grabbed what was there, and fed her family before the news came on. Halfway down this countdown, one meal is nothing but corn syrup poured between 2 slices of white bread, and entire families in the Deep South survived on it when the pantry held nothing else. And at number 6, the only thing between 2 slices of bread is a single condiment, and millions of kids grew up eating it without ever knowing how poor they were. These were not shortcuts. These were the meals that kept people standing when the paycheck could not. So hit subscribe and come along, because here are 25 forgotten poor man 5-minute meals from the 1960s. Number 25. Fried bologna sandwich. Take a thick slice of bologna, score the edges with a knife so it would not cup up in the pan, and drop it into a hot skillet with a little bit of grease. The meat curled at the edges no matter what you did, and the center puffed up until the whole slice looked like a pink dome sizzling against the cast iron. Flip it once, lay it on white bread, add mustard and a slice of American cheese if you had it, and press the top slice down until the warm fat soaked through. Mill workers in the Ohio Valley ate this 3 nights a week. The whole thing cost almost nothing, took less than 4 minutes from refrigerator to plate, and tasted like something a short-order cook would charge you $1 for at a roadside counter. Number 24. Bread and warm milk. Tear 2 slices of white bread into a bowl, heat a cup of milk on the stove, pour it over the bread, and sprinkle sugar on top. That was supper. Some families used day-old bread because it soaked up the milk better and softened into something almost like pudding. Others added a pinch of cinnamon if they had it, though most did not. Children in the 1960s ate this 3 or 4 nights a week in homes where meat was a Sunday luxury, and everything else was a matter of stretching what the pantry still held. It filled the stomach, it cost almost nothing, and it put a child to sleep warm. Grown men ate it too, though they rarely admitted it. Before I go further, for the folks who want all of these meals and more in one place, I put together the Vintage Recipe Guide. It is a collection of the best old recipes I have covered on this channel, and you can find it on my website, vintagelifestyleusa.com. I will not push it again. If you want it, it is there. Now back to the list. Number 23. Chipped beef on toast. Open the jar, pull the dried beef apart into thin shreds, and toss it into a pan of butter and flour until the roux thickened into a pale gravy. Pour the whole thing over toast and eat it with a fork. The military called it something unprintable, but the families who ate it at home every payday week called it supper. Mothers stretched a single jar across 3 meals by adding more milk to the gravy each time. The salt in the beef did most of the seasoning. The toast caught the drippings. 2 slices of bread and a few cents of dried meat kept a table quiet for the night. Number 22. Sardines on crackers. Peel back the tin lid, drain the oil, and lay the small silver fish across saltine crackers one by one. Squeeze lemon over the top if you had a lemon. If you did not, hot sauce worked. Men who worked the night shift in the textile mills of the Carolinas kept a tin in their locker and ate them on break without a plate, without a napkin, and without sitting down. The tin cost less than a loaf of bread, it did not need refrigeration, and it had more protein than a glass of milk. Some people mashed the sardines into the crackers with the back of a fork until the whole thing became a rough paste. Others ate them whole, bones and all, because the bones were soft enough to chew and nobody had taught them to be squeamish about it. Number 21. Toast with bacon drippings. Every kitchen in the 1960s had a coffee can or a mason jar sitting on the back of the stove, half full of cooled bacon grease saved from every breakfast for weeks running. When supper ran thin, you toasted 2 slices of bread, spread a spoonful of that rendered fat across the top while the bread was still hot, and sprinkled salt over it. The grease melted into the bread and turned it glossy and rich with a faint smokiness that carried the memory of every rasher that had come before it. Farm families across the Midwest and the Plains ate this without thinking twice about it. It was calories, it was fat, and on a cold evening when the grocery money had already run out and the refrigerator held nothing worth heating up, it was enough to get a person through the night. The 5-minute meal was never about laziness. It was about math. A woman in 1963 had a fixed amount of money, a fixed number of mouths, and a fixed number of days until the next paycheck arrived. She did not cook fast because she did not care about the food. She cooked fast because time was the only thing she had even less of than money. She worked, she cleaned, she raised children who never knew they were poor because the plates were always full. Speed was not a shortcut. It was a skill earned across hundreds of nights standing at the same stove, reaching for the same cans, feeding the same family with whatever was left. The women who cooked these meals could outperform any modern kitchen timer without ever setting one. Number 20. Peanut butter and banana sandwich. Spread peanut butter on one slice of bread, lay thin banana slices across it, press another slice on top, and cut it diagonal. This was a school lunch staple across America in the 1960s. It did not need a lunchbox, an ice pack, or a refrigerator. The peanut butter held the banana in place, the natural sugar in the fruit kept children from complaining, and the whole thing cost less than a dime to put together. Some mothers added a drizzle of honey if the jar was not empty yet. Most did not bother. The sandwich traveled well in a brown paper bag. It tasted sweet without any added sugar, and it filled a small stomach for the entire afternoon without complaint. Number 19. Rice and canned tomatoes. Cook a pot of plain white rice, open a can of stewed tomatoes, pour the tomatoes over the rice, and add salt and a spoonful of bacon grease if you had any left in the coffee can beside the stove. In the rural South, this was not a side dish. This was supper. Whole families sat around the table and ate bowls of it in silence on the nights between paydays when the icebox held nothing else worth heating. The rice came from a cloth sack bought at the general store for a few cents a pound. The tomatoes came from the shelf in the cellar where your mother had canned them the previous August, standing over a pot of boiling water with jars lined up on the counter like soldiers, sealing each one with a rubber ring and a prayer that the seal would hold through February. The combination was soft and warm and tasted like the garden even in the dead of winter. Some families added a chopped onion to the pot. Others stirred in a beaten egg at the end and let the heat cook it into ribbons through the tomato. Nobody wrote it down. Nobody called it a recipe. It was just what you ate when you had rice and you had tomatoes and you had nothing else. Preachers' wives served it after Wednesday night Bible study. Widows ate it alone at the kitchen table with the radio on. And children who grew up eating it still crave the taste of stewed tomatoes over white rice on cold nights when the world feels heavier than it should. Number 18. Crackers and potted meat. Open the small flat tin, spread the potted meat on saltine crackers with a butter knife, and eat them standing at the kitchen counter. That was lunch for men who worked second shift and did not have time to sit down. Potted meat cost pennies per tin, and the saltines were always in the cabinet because they went with everything. Nobody called this a meal in polite company, but it kept a working body moving for another 4 hours without complaint. The taste was salty and concentrated. The texture was smooth and dense, and if you did not spend too long thinking about what was actually inside that tin, you did just fine. Number 17. Soda crackers and milk. Crumble a handful of saltine crackers into a bowl, pour cold milk over them, and eat it with a spoon before the crackers dissolved completely. Some people added sugar. Most did not. The crackers softened fast and turned into something between cereal and mush, bland and filling and quick enough that a person could eat it standing at the counter and be done before the milk had time to settle. Children ate this when they were sick and could not keep anything heavy down. Old men ate this when chewing hurt, and pride kept them from saying so. Families ate this on the nights between grocery trips when the bread was gone and the cereal box was empty, and nobody had the energy to pretend the situation was anything other than what it was. Number 16. Hot dog and canned beans. Slice 2 hot dogs into coins, dump them into a pot of pork and beans, heat it on the stove for 4 minutes, and eat it straight from the pot if nobody was watching. This was a bachelor meal. A babysitter meal, a meal for the night nobody in the house felt like trying. The hot dogs gave the beans some heft and protein. The sweet tomato sauce from the can made it taste like something a child would actually finish without arguing, and the cleanup was one pot and one spoon. Plenty of families ate this once a week and never felt the need to apologize for it. The pot was empty before anyone asked what was for dessert. Number 15. Sugar bread. Take a slice of white bread, spread soft butter or margarine across it, and sprinkle white sugar on top. Fold it in half and eat it over the sink. That was a snack and sometimes a full meal for children in the 1960s, and most of them did not realize until decades later that it was a poverty food. The butter softened under the sugar crunched between your teeth with every bite, and the whole thing tasted better than it had any right to. Some families used brown sugar instead, which made the bread taste like a cookie. The effect was the same, something sweet on a night when the cupboard held nothing else worth eating. There is a silence around these meals that says more than any cookbook ever could. The women who made them did not write about it. They did not share recipes because there were no recipes to share. You opened what you had. You heated what you could. And you put it in front of the people you loved without a single word of apology. The 1960s had a strange relationship with food. Magazines showed elaborate dinner parties with molded gelatin salads and glazed hams. But in most real kitchens across America, the actual cooking looked nothing like that. The actual cooking looked like a woman standing at a counter by herself, feeding her family on whatever the cabinet still held, doing it again the next night and the night after that, and never once expecting anyone to thank her for it. Number 14. Syrup sandwich. Take 2 slices of white bread, pour a stream of corn syrup across one slice until it pooled at the edges, press the other slice on top, and eat it over the sink because the syrup ran down your wrists, no matter how careful you were. In the Deep South and across Appalachia, this was not a treat. This was a Tuesday night when the ham was gone, the beans were gone, and the only things left in the cabinet were a loaf of bread and a bottle of syrup that seemed to last forever because nobody used enough at one time to empty it. Sharecropper families in Mississippi and Alabama ate syrup sandwiches through the 1950s and the 1960s as a primary source of calories on the days between paychecks. Children carried them to school wrapped in wax paper and traded nothing for them because there was nothing to trade. Mothers handed them across the table without explanation because none was needed. The bread soaked up the syrup and turned translucent at the center, and the sweetness hit your teeth before you finished the first bite. Some families used sorghum instead of corn syrup, which tasted darker and heavier with a slight bitterness at the back of the throat that lingered long after the bread was gone. Others used cane syrup poured from a tin bought at a general store where the owner knew your name and your balance. The brand did not matter. The bread did not matter. What mattered was that a bottle of syrup cost almost nothing, lasted weeks on the shelf, and turned a bare slice of bread into something a hungry child would eat without tears. People who grew up on syrup sandwiches remember the stickiness on their fingers more than the taste, and most of them will tell you they never fully stopped craving it even after they could afford to eat whatever they wanted. Number 13. Tuna on saltines. Open the can, drain the water into the sink, mash the tuna with a fork right inside the tin, and eat it on crackers one at a time. No mayonnaise required, though most people added a spoonful when they had it in the refrigerator. A single can of tuna and a sleeve of saltines could feed 2 people a full lunch, and together they cost less than a gallon of gas in 1965. Working men kept spare cans of tuna in their toolboxes and glove compartments. Mothers kept them stacked behind the cereal. It was the meal you did not have to think about, the one that was always there waiting when nothing else in the kitchen was. Number 12. Cheese toast. Lay slices of American cheese on bread, slide it under the broiler for 2 minutes, and pull it out when the cheese bubbled and turned golden at the edges. No butter, no pan, no flipping required. The broiler did all the work. Children in the 1960s ate this after school while their mothers were still at work or busy with younger siblings, and it was one of the first real meals a child learned to make without any help at all. The cheese melted into the bread and turned slightly crisp where it touched the rack, and if you let it sit under the heat 10 seconds too long, the whole thing transformed into something charred and entirely different. Number 11. Liverwurst on bread. Slice the liverwurst thick from the tube. Lay it on rye or whatever bread the house had that week, add a smear of yellow mustard, and eat. The liverwurst was soft enough to spread with a butter knife if you did not feel like cutting slices, and some people treated it more like a paste than a meat, mashing it flat against the bread until it reached every corner. German and Polish families across the Midwest and the industrial Northeast bought it by the pound at the deli counter because it cost less than any other cold cut behind the glass. It was dense and rich and faintly livery in a way that children either loved completely or refused to touch, with nothing in between. Factory workers carried it in wax paper to the plant floor. Old men ate it at kitchen tables in row houses where the windows fogged from the cold outside. Number 10. Gravy bread. Scrape the drippings from whatever meat you cooked last, add a tablespoon of flour, stir it until it browned, pour in milk, season with salt and pepper, and let it thicken. Then pour it over slices of bread on a plate. That was the whole meal. Some families used leftover biscuits instead of bread if they had baked that morning. Others used toast because it held the gravy without falling apart. Gravy bread was what showed up on the table when the meat was gone, but the grease was still in the pan. It came straight from the Depression years, and it never fully left American kitchens because the need for it never fully went away. Cooking alone in the 1960s was not a lifestyle choice anyone made on purpose. It was what happened when the children moved away, the husband passed, and the house went quiet. A widow in 1965 did not meal prep for the week or browse recipes in a magazine. She stood at a stove that suddenly felt too large for one person and made just enough food to fill one plate. The meals got simpler year by year. The portions got smaller. But the act of sitting down at the table, setting a fork on a napkin, and eating a real meal in silence, that was not giving up. That was dignity. That was a woman telling herself she still mattered enough to be fed properly, even if nobody else was there to see it. Number 9. Onion sandwich. Slice a raw white onion into thick rings, lay them between 2 slices of bread with yellow mustard or a thin layer of mayonnaise, and eat. The bite of the raw onion was sharp enough to make your eyes water before you finished the first half. Working men in factories and meatpacking plants across the industrial Midwest ate this because onions cost almost nothing by the bag, they did not spoil fast, and they filled the stomach with a heat that tricked the body into thinking it had eaten more than it actually had. Nobody packed this for a polite occasion. The smell stayed on your hands and your breath for hours afterward, but it kept a body moving through a full shift, and that was the only thing it needed to do. Number 8. Fried potato cakes from last night's leftovers. Scoop cold mashed potatoes from the bowl in the refrigerator, shape them into flat patties with your hands, and drop them into a hot skillet with butter or leftover grease. Fry them until the outside turned golden brown and crisp and the inside stayed soft and warm. The whole process took less than 5 minutes because the potatoes were already cooked. You were just reheating them in a shape that made them taste entirely different from the night before. Some families mixed in a beaten egg to hold the patties together. Others added diced onion or a handful of shredded cheese if the block in the refrigerator had not already been used up. The outside crust formed fast in the hot fat, and when you broke one open with a fork, steam rose off the center and the smell of butter and salt filled the entire kitchen. Potato cakes were never planned as their own meal. They were what happened the morning after a boiled potato supper, when the leftovers sat in the cold box and somebody with a skillet and 5 spare minutes decided they deserved one more go. Number 7. Cold bean sandwich. Mash leftover pinto beans onto a slice of bread with the back of a fork, add a shake of salt, lay a second slice on top, and eat it cold standing at the counter. In Appalachian kitchens during the early 1960s, a pot of beans cooked on Sunday fed the family in different forms all week long. By Thursday, the beans were cold and thick and nobody wanted to look at another bowl of them, so somebody pressed them onto bread and called it lunch. The starch from the beans held the sandwich together. The salt was already cooked in. It took less than a minute to assemble, and it filled you up for the rest of the afternoon on nothing but what was already sitting in the pot on the back of the stove. Number 6. Mayonnaise sandwich, 2 slices of soft white bread, a thick spread of mayonnaise from one edge to the other, and nothing else between them. Millions of American children ate this exact sandwich throughout the 1960s and never thought twice about it. The mayonnaise was cool and creamy, the bread was soft, and if you press the sandwich flat with your palm, the mayo spread to every corner and the whole thing held together like it was meant to be a meal. Some families added a single tomato slice during the summer when tomatoes were ripe in the garden. Some added a leaf of iceberg lettuce. But the original version, the real one that people remember, was just bread and mayonnaise. Nothing else. It was the meal that nobody ever talked about at school and everybody ate at home. The grocery stores of the 1960s looked nothing like what you find on every corner today. Aisles were shorter, selection was smaller. Prices were written by hand on cardboard signs. And for families living on a fixed weekly income, the store was a place of arithmetic, not appetite. You walked in with a number in your head, you bought what the money allowed, and you figured out later how to turn it all into 7 days of hot meals. Nobody threw food away. Not because they read an article about waste, because throwing food away meant someone at your table went hungry. Every single meal on this list was born from that same equation. Every shortcut on this countdown was earned by a woman who had already done the math in her head before she ever reached for the skillet. Number 5. Ketchup sandwich. Spread ketchup on white bread, fold it in half, or press a second slice on top, and eat. There was nothing else between the bread. No meat, no cheese, no lettuce. Just ketchup. Children ate this without argument because the ketchup tasted sweet and familiar, and the bread was soft enough to chew without effort. Adults ate it quietly and did not discuss it at work the next morning. The bottle on the table was sometimes the only condiment the kitchen still held, and when everything else had been used up or had gone bad, it became the entire meal by default. Some families added a single ring of raw onion to convince themselves it counted as something more. Most did not bother with the pretense. The sandwich tasted like what it was, the last thing standing between a family and an empty table. Number 4. Buttered bread with molasses. Spread soft butter across a slice of bread and pour a thin stream of blackstrap molasses over the top. The molasses was thick and dark and tasted like iron and burnt sugar together in a way that either grew on you fast or never did. In the rural South and through the Ozark Hills, a jug of molasses lasted months on the shelf and showed up on the table at every meal where the sugar bowl ran dry and nobody had driven to town to replace it. Children dipped their bread straight into it. Adults poured it over biscuits and cornbread, and sometimes ate it by the spoonful directly from the jar when nobody was looking. The combination of salted butter and bitter molasses on soft white bread was a full meal in homes where the definition of a full meal had long since narrowed to whatever stopped the hunger and let a person sleep. Number 3. Scrambled eggs and onions. Dice half a yellow onion, cook it in butter until it went soft and translucent, crack 3 eggs straight into the same pan, and scramble everything together over medium heat until the eggs just set. Serve it on toast with salt and pepper. The onion changed the eggs entirely. It gave them a sweetness, a depth, and a smell that belonged in a short-order diner instead of a kitchen where the cupboard was nearly bare and payday was still 2 days out. Men who lived alone in boarding houses and walk-up apartments made this every single night of the week. Mothers made it for their children and pretended it was a treat instead of a necessity. Number 2. Pimiento cheese sandwich. Mix grated sharp cheddar with a jar of diced pimientos and enough mayonnaise to hold it all together. Spread it thick on soft white bread and press the slices flat. In the 1960s, this was the sandwich that sat under wax paper at every church function, every funeral reception, and every factory break room from Richmond to Birmingham. Women made it in mixing bowls large enough to bathe a cat in, and it disappeared before anything else on the table. The cheddar had to be sharp. The pimientos had to come from a small glass jar with a red lid. And the mayonnaise had to be the same brand their mothers had used because anything else tasted wrong in a way nobody could explain, but everybody noticed. The whole batch cost less than a pound of lunch meat and stretched twice as far. Number 1. Chicken broth with whatever you had left. Save the bones from last night's roast chicken. Drop them in a pot of water with salt. Add whatever the back of the refrigerator still held. A carrot going limp, a wilted stalk of celery, half an onion that was starting to go soft at the edges. Let it simmer on low until the kitchen smelled like someone in that house still cared enough to stand at the stove. Then pour the broth through a strainer into a bowl, drop in a handful of crackers or a few noodles and sit down at the table. Not the couch, the table. This was the meal that kept people going when the money was spent, the energy was gone, and the only thing left in the kitchen was a pot and a working burner. It took 5 minutes of real attention from a real person, and the one eating it could taste the difference between that and nothing. Remember when Campbell's cream of mushroom soup and canned tuna were the stars of the food aisle back in the day? Well, Grandma took those humble ingredients and spun them into her classic tuna noodle casserole. During the 1950s and 1960s, convenience foods were all the rage, and tuna noodle casserole fit the bill perfectly. It was a post-World War II creation and was whipped up in no time with ingredients already on hand. Plus, it was a classic comfort food that brought everyone together at Graham's dinner table. During the mid-20th century, tuna noodle casserole was a mainstay in American cookbooks and cooking magazines. It was often featured in advertisements and was promoted as a quick and easy dish for the busy homemaker. This one fell out of flavor, but thanks to the recent revival of noodle dishes, we might see this one back on the menu soon. In the meantime, why not dust off Grandma's old cookbooks and bring it back yourself? Antipasto skewers took the bold flavors of an Italian deli and delivered them in a bite-sized form that defined 1970s cocktail hour. Cubes of sharp cheese, slices of salami, tangy pickled peppers, and briny olives were threaded onto small wooden toothpicks in whatever order pleased the eye. The result was a rainbow of reds, greens, and creamy yellows that looked as striking as they tasted. Because everything came straight from the refrigerator or pantry, preparation was as simple as opening jars and slicing a few wedges of cheese. Guests could grab a skewer with one hand while holding a drink in the other, which made them a perfect choice for lively gatherings where conversation mattered more than formal seating. A drizzle of olive oil or a light dusting of dried oregano could be added at the last second for extra flair. The salty, savory bite captured the spirit of an adventurous decade when Americans were eager to try European flavors but still wanted the speed of a 5-minute recipe. These skewers remain a perfect example of how a few quality ingredients can create a party dish that feels effortless and unforgettable. Creamed mushrooms on crackers was the kind of dish that came together faster than guests could arrive, the perfect mix of grace and resourcefulness. A few spoonfuls of butter melted in a pan, a dusting of flour turned it thick, and milk smoothed it into something velvety. Sliced mushrooms followed, softening as they released their earthy aroma. The sauce simmered just long enough to turn glossy before being spooned over crisp crackers or buttered toast. In the 1940s and 1950s, this was elegant entertaining, simple ingredients dressed in charm. The Joy of Cooking called it a supper in miniature, perfect for evenings when friends dropped by unannounced. Housewives loved it because it looked refined yet cost little, using what was already in the pantry. The flavor balanced richness and simplicity, each bite creamy with a hint of woodland flavor. Served with martinis or lemonade, it fit every occasion. Creamed mushrooms on crackers reminded cooks that true hospitality was never about extravagance. It was about warmth, speed, and heart. One-pan sausage pasta is a name you would never have heard just a few decades before. But now it brings together the best of Italian comfort cooking and American convenience culture to make one incredibly satisfying dish. We've all been there, right? Days where pasta could cure us, but the effort seems way too much for the amount of gas we have left in the tank? That's when recipes like these come in handy. All of the pasta and meat cooked together, so the noodles don't ever feel disproportionately flavored. Every strand of noodle is infused with the taste of the sausage. The slow cooking really helps break down the fats, and what you get is something that tastes way more dense flavor-wise than anything else. Cheese and grape kebabs turned the humble fruit and cheese plate into a playful finger food that perfectly fit the fun-loving vibe of the 1970s. Sharp cheddar cubes alternated with seedless grapes on small wooden picks, creating cheerful patterns of gold and purple. The sweet burst of the grape balanced the salty richness of the cheese, making each bite a perfect contrast of flavors. Assembly was quick and required no more than a cutting board and a few minutes of threading. These kebabs looked impressive on buffet tables, catching the light like tiny jewels and inviting guests to grab one without hesitation. They were ideal for backyard parties, school events, or casual evenings when friends dropped by unexpectedly. Hosts loved that the recipe was inexpensive yet eye-catching, and children enjoyed helping assemble the colorful skewers. With no need for heating or seasoning, they proved that true crowd pleasers could be prepared in less time than it took to pour a drink. Cheese and grape kebabs remain a charming reminder of a decade that embraced bold simplicity and knew how to turn the ordinary into something delightful. Egg nests were breakfast theater in 10 minutes flat. Egg whites were whipped into glossy clouds, shaped into little nests, and baked just long enough to firm before the yolks were added back in. The result was a dish that looked far fancier than it was, light, airy, and golden at the center. The Joy of Cooking described it as a dainty breakfast, perfect for brunches or special mornings. Housewives loved it because it turned a single egg into something spectacular. The contrast between the soft yolk and crisp-edged white made every bite feel delicate. Served with buttered toast or a slice of ham, it looked like something straight from a hotel breakfast tray. Children watched in awe as the nests puffed up in the oven. It was fast, pretty, and impossibly charming, the kind of forgotten magic that made morning feel like an occasion. The Hamburger Helper casserole takes the flashiness factor and ups it to a 10 unlike corn pudding. Blurring the lines between a casserole and lasagna, this dish also blurred the lines between a simple Tuesday baking session and a literal gift of God. Consisting of pasta, hamburger patties, and a cheesy sauce layered on top, this mixture was then baked into a casserole. As you kept getting deeper into the behemoth, the more irresistible it would get. Although this dish was really high in saturated fats and calories, most doctors recommended avoiding trendy foods like these for their link to heart problems too. Hence, people took much more cautionary attitudes toward their line blurring, making Hamburger Helper pizzas a thing of the past. Stuffed celery with pimento cheese combined cool crunch and creamy tang in a way that belonged on every 1970s party tray and buffet table. Fresh celery stalks were washed and cut into bite-sized lengths, their natural hollow centers waiting to be filled with a rich cheese mixture. A quick blend of shredded cheddar, mayonnaise, and finely diced pimentos came together in seconds to create a spread that was bold, colorful, and addictive without needing any cooking. The sharpness of the cheese met the gentle sweetness of the red peppers, creating a balance that pleased both children and adults alike at every gathering. Hosts loved that the snack stayed crisp and fresh on a platter for hours, allowing them to mingle instead of rushing back to the kitchen or worrying about soggy bread. Because every ingredient came straight from the refrigerator or pantry, preparation took no more than a handful of minutes and cleanup was almost nothing. Served alongside crackers or as a simple side dish, these stuffed stalks delivered a satisfying crunch and a creamy bite that perfectly captured the decade's love of easy entertaining. Quick, colorful, and delightfully nostalgic, it remains a timeless 5-minute recipe that still wins hearts today. Corn fritters with maple drizzle were pure Southern comfort, a 10-minute bridge between hunger and happiness. Corn, fresh or canned, was folded into a light batter of flour, egg, and milk, then dropped into a hot cast-iron skillet where it sizzled and rose into golden pillows. The outside crisped, the inside stayed soft, catching the faint sweetness of the corn. When drizzled with maple syrup, it became something transcendent. Sweet, savory, and nostalgic all at once. The Joy of Cooking called them a luncheon for all hours, and they lived up to that promise. They appeared at kitchen tables, church picnics, and roadside stands, eaten hot from paper towels while steam still curled into the air. Some cooks added green onion or bacon, others kept them plain, letting simplicity shine. Corn fritters with maple drizzle captured the rhythm of everyday cooking, fast, generous, and full of soul. They were food made to be shared, to be gone too soon. Mulligan stew is a dish that's often associated with lower-class cooking, and it was even something that homeless people relied on to get by the week. It can be best described as a makeshift meal, though if I were being fully real with you, it was just the best you could make out of whatever scraps you had. What I couldn't tell you is how nice this actually ended up being, and the invention of the slow cooker meant that it took a lot less time to make. You could make it with potatoes, vegetables, or even dumplings, and it has evolved from a meal that you'd usually associate with horrible times and poverty to a staple of home-cooked one-pot meals. Working and middle-class families often resort to this when they want to take care of everyone's appetite in one go, and man, it really works. Instant French onion dip became the undisputed king of 1970s snack tables because it required almost no effort and tasted like you had been cooking all afternoon for guests. A tub of cool sour cream met a packet of dry onion soup mix in a simple mixing bowl, and within seconds, the dip was ready to enjoy. The dehydrated onions softened just enough to release a sweet, savory flavor that paired perfectly with crisp potato chips or fresh vegetable sticks for a balanced bite. This recipe fit the decade's fascination with convenience foods while still delivering a homemade feel that impressed friends and neighbors at casual gatherings. It was the go-to choice for game nights, backyard barbecues, and any gathering where people wanted to snack without interruption or wait for something to bake. Hosts appreciated that it could be made in advance or moments before guests arrived, and it never failed to disappear before the evening was over. No oven, no stove, not even a cutting board was required, just a quick stir, and it was complete. The creamy texture and bold flavor made it an instant classic that generations still remember fondly today, proof that simple ideas often last the longest. Shrimp Wiggle was one of those mid-century wonders that sounded playful but tasted like pure indulgence. Canned shrimp were folded into a quick cream sauce made with milk, butter, and flour, then brightened with a handful of green peas. It was served bubbling hot over saltine crackers or toast, ready in 10 minutes and perfect for company. The joy of cooking presented it as a pantry meal, proof that elegance could live in a can. The name alone made people smile, a hint that mealtime could still be fun even when rushed. The sauce shimmered pale pink, the shrimp tender and mild. It was a dish that combined thrift with theater, turning modest ingredients into something you would never call ordinary. The moment you broke through the creamy layer with your fork, steam carried the scent of butter and the sea. It was quick cooking at its finest, cheerful, comforting, and quietly clever. Apricot chicken probably came from the Middle East, and to be honest, you'll see a lot of dishes that are going to be from other cuisines and cultures. It's because around the same time the slow cooker was born, there was this desire that enveloped the masses, which steered them away from the sausages, bacon breakfasts, and hash browns that America already offered. They wanted to see what was there in other countries, what their streets smelled like, and what kind of food you could find there. Apricot chicken stew is a good example of the kind of flavors you can expect out of a Middle Eastern joint, with tangy and savory focuses being the star of the show. The one-pot method really helps break down the apricot and provide that tanginess, along with a rich sweetness that brings all of it together. It's an incredible way to have your chicken, and if you're on a bulk diet, this is way tastier than grilled fillets over rice. Pineapple cottage cheese salad offered the kind of sweet and savory combination that perfectly captured 1970s creativity with canned fruit. Thick, golden rings of pineapple came straight from the can, their syrupy edges glistening in the light of a retro kitchen. A generous scoop of creamy cottage cheese was placed in the center, creating a soft contrast to the bright fruit. A single maraschino cherry on top gave a pop of red that looked cheerful enough to make any dinner plate feel like a celebration. The beauty of this recipe was its complete reliance on pantry staples that were always on hand and needed no heat or chopping. It was cool, refreshing, and surprisingly filling, making it a favorite for potlucks and quick weeknight sides alike. Children loved the hint of sweetness, while adults enjoyed the light protein boost that kept the dish from being a pure dessert. Served on a bed of crisp lettuce or plain on a small saucer, it carried a quiet elegance that fit right in at backyard barbecues or church socials. In under 5 minutes, anyone could create a dish that tasted indulgent yet wholesome, proof that the 1970s knew how to dress up even the simplest ingredients. Cottage cheese pancakes were the forgotten fitness favorite of the 1970s. High in protein, light in texture, and ready in minutes. Cottage cheese, eggs, and a spoonful of flour made the batter. A hot pan did the rest. They cooked fast, puffing slightly around the edges, golden on both sides. The joy of cooking promoted them as part of a modern health breakfast, long before protein was a buzzword. Their flavor was mild but rich, tangy from the cheese and soft like soufflé inside. Served with fruit, honey, or jam, they felt both wholesome and indulgent. They became a favorite of busy parents and early risers who wanted real food without the fuss. Each pancake was proof that nourishment could be effortless. The smell of them frying, warm, milky, slightly sweet, could make any morning softer. Today, few remember how simple they were to make, but once, they were the breakfast that promised a better day. Corn pudding is a dish that may not have been as grand as the rest so far, but it was a simple DIY casserole that made your day. Corn pudding was made with stewed corn and thickening agents that helped give it a pudding or custard-like texture. However, it was not typically baked in a traditional casserole case. Instead, it had a custard dish that the pudding would go into and then be baked in. Now, down in the South, this was the food gospel. People just loved it all over, especially in less urban areas where corn was widely and daily consumed, particularly during times of economic uncertainty when households had to cut corners in the kitchen. Corn pudding was a cheap and easy-to-make casserole that was not too shabby. Nowadays, people like that have moved more to poaching local wildlife than taking Mother Nature's gifts, and as a result, corn pudding went extinct too. Avocado boats floated onto the scene when Americans first fell in love with the smooth green fruit, and they quickly became a symbol of 1970s sophistication and California style. Perfectly ripe avocados were halved and pitted, their creamy centers forming natural bowls for a cool seafood salad of crab, shrimp, or even tuna, mixed with a light dressing of lemon juice and herbs. A sprinkle of paprika or a squeeze of fresh lemon brightened the flavor and added visual flair that looked straight out of a restaurant menu. The preparation was as easy as slicing the fruit and stirring the filling, yet the finished dish looked as elegant as anything served in a fancy coastal cafe or a high-end dinner party. These boats brought a tropical note to suburban dinner tables and fit the era's growing interest in fresh produce and lighter California cuisine. They were ideal for light lunches, breezy cocktail parties, or last-minute suppers when turning on the stove felt like too much effort after a long day. The combination of buttery avocado and chilled seafood made each bite luxurious, despite the minimal cost and time, proving that quick recipes could still feel decadent and modern for every household. Ham and pineapple foldovers were the decade's love letter to sweet and savory living. Thin slices of ham were topped with pineapple rings, brushed with mustard, and broiled on bread or biscuit halves until the edges crisped. The result was warm, tangy, and quick, a meal fit for both lunch and company. The Joy of Cooking listed it as a 10-minute sandwich, perfect for unexpected guests or late-night suppers. It was food that wore a smile, bright, colorful, unapologetically mid-century. The pineapple's sweetness met the salty ham in perfect balance, every bite delivering nostalgia in flavor form. These sandwiches sat proudly on holiday tables and weekday trays alike, their simplicity making them timeless. A sprinkle of grated cheese on top made them even better, melting into golden bubbles. It was fast food before the term existed, homemade and proud. Each foldover told the story of an era that loved flair without the weight. Firstly, fine dining and delectable foods are the perfect themes to start our list, and there is no better dish to represent that than chicken divan. Chicken casseroles stuffed with broccoli, cheese, and a special sauce. Not just any sauce from down the alley, this was the signature taste of the Divan Parisian restaurant, which actually invented chicken divans in New York City around the early 20s. Hence the association with fine dining, and its price matched its aesthetic. Like seriously, this thing cost you $1 and then some back then. Naturally though, everyone could not spread their bank account, so do-it-yourself, cheaper alternatives of the dish came around. For those who could get it, they would gladly shill out their wallets for something so divine though, and that is the saddest part of it all. You could not find an authentic chicken divan anywhere if you tried even in a home chef's kitchen. We're going to continue the casserole show with Alpine chicken. This one got popular for more or less the same reasons the other two did. However, it had an extra kick that they didn't, and that was the addition of Swiss cheese. Americans will never get tired of a dish if it has a decent helping of cheese in it. So you shouldn't be too surprised that this is stuck in the minds of eaters and families like glue. Alpine chicken typically uses cream of mushroom soup and breadcrumbs or a stuffing mix layered in a dish that gets cooked until the cheese is melted. You also have your typical chicken breasts involved, but some people go for the thighs. It peaked in popularity during the post-war era when people really started looking for more ease in their cooking rather than sweating buckets after a day in the kitchen. You know how when you cook something, you rarely feel like eating it immediately? It's because cooking is a soul-sucking endeavor. It doesn't have to be, thanks to things like crock pots and recipes like Alpine chicken, which bring the fun back in food and make sure you actually get to rest and replenish that stamina tank. Plus, this was a dish that really got the crowd singing, and that's always one you want to keep on your roster. This dish actually got popular for exactly the reasons you would think. Yes, landing your man through a happy stomach is a good way to get married by fall season. Watergate salad arrived with a mysterious name and a playful green color that fascinated every 1970s household. Pistachio pudding mix gave it that soft mint hue, while crushed pineapple added a tropical sweetness that made each spoonful refreshing. Whipped topping folded everything into a cloud-like texture, and miniature marshmallows added chewy little surprises with every bite. Some families tossed in chopped pecans for a gentle crunch, while others kept it smooth and creamy depending on what they had in the pantry. The entire recipe could be finished before the evening news even began, making it a hit for last-minute dessert needs or potluck contributions that required no stress. Children were drawn to the bright color, while adults appreciated the subtle, nutty flavor that set it apart from ordinary fruit salads and other quick sweets. Despite the political scandal sharing its name, Watergate salad kept its reputation as a cheerful treat for gatherings of all kinds and sizes. It required no stove, no oven, and no waiting, only a mixing bowl and a quick stir from start to finish. In less than 5 minutes, you could create something that looked whimsical and tasted indulgent, proving that the decade valued both speed and fun with a touch of flair. Baked apples with cinnamon sugar were the heartwarming dessert that proved simplicity never went out of style, a 10-minute wonder that felt like hours of care. Core the apples, fill the hollow with brown sugar, cinnamon, and a pat of butter, then bake until the skin turned glossy and the filling bubbled over like molten caramel. The scent filled every corner of the house, sweet, spiced, and soft, like the comfort of wool blankets and laughter at the table. The apples collapsed slightly, their texture turning tender but not mushy, the syrup pooling at the bottom of the dish. The joy of cooking listed it among quick sweets, meant for nights when time was short, but the craving for kindness lingered. Served warm with cream, whipped topping, or ice cream, it felt indulgent without excess. Each bite carried the warmth of memory, the flavor of home, and the calm of something perfectly ordinary done perfectly well. Navy bean soup, as the name implies, is one right out of the cookbooks of the military. See, all those soldiers get so awfully tired from traveling to other countries all of the time, they end up needing soups filled with ham and cured pork to put some pep in their step. Navy bean soup was particularly nice for 2 reasons. It was already cheap, which was kind of the theme of the time with the World Wars. But even after that, the habit of rationing and using cheap ingredients for military ventures didn't really go away. Anything that cuts costs, right? Navy bean soup definitely knew how to save money. And once slow cookers became a thing, it was saving time too. The second reason is that it was pretty easy to make wherever you were, and it was easy to carry around too, in pots or a thermos. This meant that it was the perfect military food. Healthy, easy to make in bulk, and easy to carry around. Don't think it takes a genius to figure out why they abused this recipe to the moon and back. Ambrosia fruit salad was a dish that turned ordinary canned goods into something that felt downright festive. Open a can of mandarin oranges, a can of pineapple tidbits, and a jar of bright red cherries. Then drain and fold them gently into a bowl of fluffy whipped topping. Add a handful of miniature marshmallows and a sprinkle of sweetened coconut flakes, and you had a creamy, dreamy salad that looked like a dessert and tasted like a celebration. The name alone promised a taste of something heavenly, and in the 1970s, this easy recipe became a staple at every picnic, church supper, and family reunion. It required no cooking and very little effort, yet it brought a sense of indulgence that belied its humble ingredients. Parents loved how quickly it came together while children clamored for the soft marshmallows and bursts of fruit. It was equally welcome at a summer barbecue or a winter holiday table, always ready to delight with its pastel colors and gentle sweetness. In an era when convenience met creativity, Ambrosia proved that a can opener and a mixing spoon were all you needed to create a dish that everyone would remember long after the party ended. Eggs a la goldenrod was one of those quietly elegant dishes that proved how far a single egg could go. Hard-boiled eggs were chopped into a creamy white sauce made from butter, flour, and milk, seasoned just enough to feel comforting without being heavy. The golden yolks were pressed through a sieve and sprinkled on top like sunshine. It was ladled generously over buttered toast, warm and simple, but it felt refined enough to serve guests. Housewives swore by it for its thrift and speed, 10 minutes from pan to plate. The recipe appeared in early editions of The Joy of Cooking as a way to turn breakfast into something special without fuss or waste. It was food for busy mornings, for children before school, or for quiet dinners when money was tight. Even with such basic ingredients, it had an air of ceremony, a touch of care. The smell of warm milk and butter filled the kitchen like a soft promise. It was a reminder that nourishment could be beautiful when made with love and patience. Shrimp cocktail cups were the sort of flashy appetizer that made every 1970s gathering feel just a little more glamorous without demanding a single stressful minute of cooking. Pre-cooked shrimp meant no one had to fiddle with boiling pots or worry about timing. You would simply chill those pink curls in a bowl of ice water while mixing up a tangy cocktail sauce of ketchup, prepared horseradish, a squeeze of lemon juice, and a dash of hot sauce if you were feeling bold. Iceberg lettuce shredded into crisp ribbons lined the serving cups to give everything a cool crunch. The shrimp were arranged in neat circles like tiny crowns, and the sauce was spooned right into the center so guests could dip as they pleased. This was food designed to impress and to be ready almost instantly. The bright red sauce and the frosty shrimp made a dramatic splash against the pale lettuce, and that visual punch was as important as the taste. Hosts loved how the dish stayed fresh on a buffet table for an entire evening while they enjoyed their own party. In a decade obsessed with quick elegance, nothing else came close to this 5-minute classic. Cottage cheese pancakes were the forgotten fitness favorite of the 1970s. High in protein, light in texture, and ready in minutes. Cottage cheese, eggs, and a spoonful of flour made the batter. A hot pan did the rest. They cooked fast, puffing slightly around the edges, golden on both sides. The Joy of Cooking promoted them as part of a modern health breakfast, long before protein was a buzzword. Their flavor was mild but rich, tangy from the cheese and soft like soufflé inside. Served with fruit, honey, or jam, they felt both wholesome and indulgent. They became a favorite of busy parents and early risers who wanted real food without the fuss. Each pancake was proof that nourishment could be effortless. The smell of them frying, warm, milky, slightly sweet, could make any morning softer. Today, few remember how simple they were to make, but once, they were the breakfast that promised a better day. Now let's put the Frankenburger casseroles and chicken pot pies aside and go back to a real icon like the shepherd's pie. Your mother knows of this, her mother knows of this, her mother's dad knows of this, and his fourth cousin had this every year for family gatherings. Not an exaggeration by any means, the shepherd's pie really was just that loved across every state. Just simple meats like lamb or ground beef cooked or minced to their limit, baked and topped with mashed potatoes in a casserole. Literally, what more does a person even ask of a plate of food? Can we get much higher? Was the question on most chefs' minds, as shepherd's pie was hard to improve on, making the market highly competitive. No one had one unique standout shepherd's pie, and most were as good as each other. Of course, that meant great things for customers, but sadly, those days of privilege and good-tasting casseroles are gone now. Shepherd's pie is more a southern tradition than a statewide phenomenon now. Radish and butter canapés offered a crisp, peppery bite that felt refreshingly rustic amid the richer party foods of the 1970s and still feels elegant today. Thin slices of fresh radish were laid across buttered rounds of rye or pumpernickel bread, their bright red edges standing out like little jewels on a festive tray. The key was the quality of the butter, which softened slightly against the cool bread and mellowed the sharpness of the radish without overpowering its natural flavor. A pinch of sea salt brought everything together, creating a taste that was both earthy and refined with each bite. Preparation took only a few minutes, making these canapés a favorite for hosts who wanted a unique appetizer without any cooking or complex ingredients. They reflected a quiet back-to-nature movement of the decade, when gardeners and health-conscious families embraced simple produce as something to be celebrated at the table. Served on a wooden board or silver tray, they added a sophisticated European touch to American cocktail parties and informal gatherings. Their balance of crunch, creaminess, and subtle spice kept guests coming back for more. And even today, the combination of radish and butter remains a timeless 5-minute snack. Tomato rarebit was comfort poured over toast. Imagine a smooth, cheese-rich sauce flavored with tomato, butter, and a pinch of mustard. Simple, warm, and filling. It was a cousin to Welsh rarebit, but humbler, faster, and easier to love. The joy of cooking tucked it among its light suppers, promising a full meal made in minutes. It was cooked in one pan, whisked until glossy, then ladled over slices of buttered bread or crackers. The result was creamy and tangy, with a sharpness that cut through the richness of cheese. It fit perfectly into the rhythms of everyday life, something to make after work or to stretch what was left in the icebox. Even when times were tight, this dish brought a touch of luxury to the table. The smell of tomato and melted cheese was like comfort distilled. Every bite carried the warmth of an era when simplicity was both necessity and art. Land your man, baked beans suddenly are a tried and tested method. I mean, you don't get a moniker like that for nothing, right? These typically get served as a topping for bratwurst or hot dogs, or served as a side for a main event that lies more on the barbecue side. The beans are made with ground beef, onions, and bell peppers, so they definitely are the perfect side to any kind of savory or tangy experience. One of the best sauces to use was Texas Pete sauce, but any kind of Tabasco works. If you have hardwood smoked bacon, though, that's definitely what cookbooks recommend, along with Taco Bell seasoning. As far as beans, any kind of canned beans work, but if you're looking for a specific recommendation that really encapsulates that mid-1900s flavor profile, then you should go for Bush's Original Baked Beans. Either way, you're in for a great time with these. Try making them for a special someone on a romantic evening, and maybe you might get lucky in other ways too. If you do hear wedding bells because of this dish, know you did a great job. Celery and olive sandwiches were the quiet, crisp heart of many bridge clubs and ladies' luncheons. Finely chopped celery mixed with sliced green olives and mayonnaise was spread thick between soft white bread, crusts neatly trimmed. The result was light, salty, and refreshing. A bite that crunched softly and vanished fast. They were the definition of elegance in simplicity, the kind of food that appeared without fanfare, but stayed in memory. The joy of cooking tucked this one away under quick sandwiches, proof that you could make something graceful in minutes. Served with tea or lemonade, they were more social ritual than recipe. Their freshness offset heavier dishes, making them a reliable favorite at every gathering. One bite was enough to recall the clink of china and the sound of soft laughter. It was food for conversation, light as air but full of care, the taste of a gentler time. 25 meals built from cans, leftovers, and whatever the pantry still held, by people who never let an empty wallet mean an empty stomach. Try one this week. Fry a potato cake from last night's leftovers, or spread molasses on a piece of buttered bread, or crumble a few crackers into a cold glass of milk the way your grandfather did on a night when the kitchen had nothing left to give. Let me know in the comments which of these your family used to make and which ones you had completely forgotten about until just now. Thanks for being here, and I will see you in the next one.